All right, it turns out that the Supreme Court just ruled against Trump. 6-3 decision. The tariffs are illegal. These are your headlines. And Trump tariffs live. U.S. Supreme Court rules Trump's sweeping tariffs are illegal. Top court issues rebuke of President Trump's use of emergency powers to impose duties on trading partners. So again, the main ruling, main headline here is that Trump's tariffs are illegal, right? Supreme Court strikes down Trump's global tariffs. Let me read a quote here. It's from John Roberts here. Had Congress intended to convey the distinct and extraordinary power to impose tariffs, it would have done so expressly, right? So if Congress really wanted the president to have power, it would say so, but that's not how this thing works. This is referring to a law, 1977, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. They often refer to that as IEPA. And again, the main thing is, had Congress intended to convey the distinct extraordinary power to impose tariffs, it would have done so expressly. Okay. Now, if we accept Trump's argument that he has the power to do anything that he wants, this is also what the ruling said, that would replace the long-standing executive legislative collaboration over trade policy with unchecked presidential policymaking. Okay, so basically this is the role of Congress to if they want to do tariffs or tax, you do it this way, not just president saying, hey, I can do whatever I want in this way. Part of the argument that the Trump people are going to have to try to make is that, and they already lost, but they're trying to make that this is a national security threat, therefore we have to do all of these tariffs. But basically, they're trying to go around Congress, and that didn't work. This is also an interesting question: is what's going to happen with the refunds? The court did not necessarily rule on that, and I think there's going to be a ton of lawsuits coming in. We're talking about probably $178 billion, of tariffs out there. People are like, "Yo, where's my money? Please give my money back." It says here, court doesn't answer whether billions in tariffs must be refunded, right? So that's an odd one because the tariffs are ruled illegal, and now we're saying okay, but because how would you feel like you just found out the Supreme Court says it's illegal, but now what's going on with my money, right? So it says a part of the ruling striking down most of Trump's tariffs. Supreme Court majority did not make clear whether the Trump administration will have to refund billions in tariffs already collected by the federal government. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, let's be frank, because they're illegal, so then you should give me the money back, right? That's what I would think. The issue was one of the most closely watched and thorniest in the case. Given the vast sums of money involved and the importance to the bottom lines of many businesses, for reals, give me my money back, right? A federal judge wrote in one ruling the companies that are part of the case face, quote, an existential threat to their businesses. Yeah, we're talking about billions of dollars here, like $178 billion worth. That could be possibly give the money back. In a dissent in the tariffs case, this is Kavanaugh then says, the issue is murky. Quote, refunds of billions of dollars would have significant consequences for the U.S. Treasury. So I guess the reason why we wouldn't give refunds is because it would be bad we'd go broke or we don't even have the money. Is that what we're trying to say here? I'll read again about the refund from Kavanaugh. Refunds of billions of dollars would have significant consequences for the U.S. Treasury. The court says nothing today about whether and if, so how, the government should go about returning the billions of dollars that has collected from importers. I mean, how can you rule that something's illegal, right, and saying essentially that you can't go around the power of Congress, and so then everyone is going to know that, hey, this is illegal. I want my money back. This is going to be a total mess. It says here the federal government received nearly $134 billion in levies through December 14th, and then there was another estimate come out from Penn, University of Pennsylvania, that it was it adds up to actually $178 billion. So I guess we know that at least if you count to December, it's 134, and then another estimate is 178. That's how much money we're talking about here. And then you have more than 1,000 lawsuits. Firms have filed lawsuits seeking tariff refunds. So, they got more than 1,000 lawsuits against them, right? Wanting billions of dollars back. This is probably going to be the next 10. Well, I was going to say 2 years, but now I'm saying 10 years. This is going to be a long time that people are going to want their money back. I'm sure. People out in our audience right now is like, yeah, I paid some tariffs this year. I want my money back. Justice Amy Cohen Barrett said during the arguments in the case in November, that the refund process, quote, could be a mess. That was from Barrett. Could be. No, it already is a mess because the magnitude of the undertaking. Okay. Trump and officials in the administration have also warned that dispersing the money could put a strain on the government's finances. They're just coming with excuses because we don't have the money, I think. Just let this sink in. This is how corrupt the Trump people are. They've been doing this thing all along. It turns out it's illegal according to the Supreme Court. And now they're saying, well, we can't give you back the money. Barrett's like, oh, it could be a mess to give you back the money. Kavanaugh's like, well, this will have significant consequences for the Treasury. It's ridiculous. Trump administration's like, oh, well, dispersing the money will put a strain on our government's finances. It's like if the, mafia comes to your house, takes your money, and then the police, arrest the mafia. And then they say like, well, we can't give you back your money because, the mafia, they already bought a house and they bought a car and they already, paid for their kids' tuition. It would just be too much of a hassle for them to go get back the money that they already spent. That's a pretty lame ruling if you ask me on this. The federal government ran a $1.9 trillion deficit for the fiscal year that ended September 30th, 2025. So meaning we spent more than we took in. And then if you add on this tariff thing, it'll be even more crazy. And even with the tariff, revenue is projected to run through massive deficit. Yeah. So I wonder if in order to get the money back, well, just play it out. Like theoretically, the government's going to just print up a bunch of money. Hey, there's your money back. There you go. But then you have to get the Fed on board with that, or well, that'll be a fight. I'll just say Trump will come up with some sort of crazy crap. And then the other issue would be, okay, what if they decide to start selling U.S. debt to try to raise money? Hey, I got an idea. How about we issue a bunch of bonds and we'll get China to pay for it. I'm sure Trump will come with some sort of weird scheme like that. And then that'll probably, because we're then issuing a bunch of debt, that'll raise the borrowing costs of everyone. This is a mess. Or I'll just completely ignore it and pretend like it didn't happen and just go, la 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 la. I mean, isn't this crazy? We also had this today too as well. The GDP numbers, I think, came out pretty bad this year. This says U.S. economic growth slowed sharply at the end of 2025, dragging down the year. I believe it was 1.4%. Yeah, the U.S. economy cooled sharply at the end of 2025, with growth slowing to an annual rate of 1.4%, as tariffs and week-long government shutdown sapped its earlier momentum. So overall, the economy expanded by 2.2% last year, lower than the 2.8% growth the year before. So we went from 2.8 GDP to 2.2, and then now we're at 1.4. So the economy's sputtering. We had a president that just did a bunch of legal crap. The Supreme Court rules against it, and now we're saying you can't get your money back because it's too complicated, basically. Our system is so messed up. I also have to say about that, and you got more than 1,000 lawsuits coming in when you just put all this stuff together. So that's my thoughts on this, and we'll get some more coming down the pipeline. This is just breaking right now, and just want to give you an initial reaction. And I'll catch you all in the next video.